If you love to travel, you are going to need a travel agent. And if you want the best travel agent, you are going to need Boull Travel. Boull Travel can help you with any kind of holiday wherever you want to go in the world, taking care of every last detail. From package holidays through to fully customized itineraries where you are completely in control of where you go and what you do. And the best part, there are no charges whatsoever. Rated excellent on Trustpilot. Start your next adventure right now by going to boullystravel.com.
Welcome back to part 2 of our first episode in our Japan series focusing on must-see cities across Japan. I'm joined today by Charlie Orr of Inside Japan. Let's jump right back in.
So on to a bit more kind of travel now. We have touched on this a little bit. We have gone back and forth on some travel. Obviously, we discussed rail. Is rail still the best way to get around?
Yes. To answer simply, yes, it is. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to ride the rails in Japan. The train system is so well developed. Every now and again, you'll see in the news how the bullet train or a local train, most likely the bullet train, is maybe delayed by a minute. And the head of the train company will go on national television to apologise to the nation at large for the inconvenience caused by that minute delay. And kind of seeing that on the news and watching the head of the company just sort of doing a very deep bow over something like a minute it just brings up memories of me kind of standing in Clapham Junction for an hour and 40 minutes with not a peep of an apology.
Not even knowing if the train's going to turn up or not.
Forever going to delay, exactly. But it's such a smooth process to ride in Japan. Obviously, everything runs so incredibly prompt as well. But I would also say definitely use the trains. So kind of getting, especially around Honshu, getting the bullet trains, getting the local trains, it's an absolute joy. But also to utilise luggage forwarding. Now, this isn't something that can be booked in advance, so it needs to be arranged kind of actually when you're in Japan, but it is a really smooth process. So largely just kind of go to your reception at your hotel and say, I would like to forward my luggage to the next hotel almost. It is a 24-hour service, so it will arrive for the most part the next day. Yeah. But having your luggage, your main bulk of luggage, forwarded on, so then you can travel really lightly. So you can just take like a backpack and whatever you need, and then sort of kind of go onto the bullet train, jump onto it, sit down, get to the next destination, and have your luggage kind of waiting for you there, or at least kind of after the 24-hour period, is just a joy, and it just makes traveling even easier. So definitely use the trains as much as you can. I think if you're planning on, and we can cover this kind of maybe in a separate section episode, but just to say, like, if you go more off the beaten path, let's say if you go to Shikoku, which is where I used to live, or Kyushu or maybe Hokkaido during the summer, then actually renting a car is really simple and easy to organise. They drive on the left or the correct side of the road.
Yeah.
Google Maps works like a dream. You will need an international driving permit, but which needs to be organised before you depart, but they're pretty simple to organise. But once you're there and the booking's been made, then it's simply a case of showing your driving licence, showing your IDP, and then jumping into the car on the correct side of the road, and then off you go. Driving on the roads there are fantastic. They're so well maintained, even in the smaller places, and everybody goes at a kind of not a leisurely pace, but they're not going bullet speed pace or anything like that. So it's just a dream. And actually, kind of utilising a rental car when you want to get more off the beaten path is fantastic, because then you can kind of get really into the heart of like the secret hidden temples or like the valleys, and you've got a bit more kind of ownership of where you need to be. But if you're focused mainly on Honshu, then you shouldn't need to worry about that at all, and actually just using the trains is the best way to get around.
What are some key cultural etiquette tips that can help travellers feel a lot more confident when they're out there?
Good question. So there's a few things. I think largely if you're coming from a Western country like the UK, then you will be forgiven if you do the occasional faux pas. If you do something that's slightly, things, then it's fine at the end of the day. But there's certain things like kind of you shouldn't eat when you walk. So if you're walking down the street of Tokyo or Kyoto and you've got a sandwich, don't eat that sandwich as you're strolling around. And simple things like chopsticks as well. There's a bit of an etiquette to chopsticks. So for those that aren't particularly comfortable with chopsticks, then the majority of restaurants will supply a fork or something making it slightly easier to use. But if you are quite savvy with chopsticks, then something that people might do, not everybody, but might do, is as soon as they get the chopsticks, they'll split them in half and then they'll sort of do this. And they'll sort of whittle them down either side. And that's largely to kind of get the splinters off the end of the chopstick so it's more comfortable to hold. But actually, this is quite rude in Japan because it's kind of indicating to the restaurant that they've bought inferior chopsticks and that they would splinter. So actually pulling them apart and then just using them as they are, splinter free, because of course the chopstick quality is very good, is just something to kind of bear in mind. So there's little things like that, I think, that, but I would say the most important thing is probably the eating while you're walking, just as from a Western perspective, and also hot spring etiquette as well. So that's something to kind of really bear in mind. So with hot springs, then the method of going in them is as nature intended. So you do go in without any clothes at all. And then when you go into the bath, they're separated by gender if you're going into a shared bath. So men go in one, the women go in another. Then as soon as you go in, see a row of kind of showers at kind of waist height, and then you'll see the main bath area. Don't jump straight in the bath. That's a huge no-no. So the baths themselves are meant for relaxing and not necessarily for cleaning yourself. So, and it's also shared water as well. So if you've just come off, let's say, a big hike or something like that, and you're covered in mud, and you jump straight in the bath, then that's a huge no-no. So what you need to do is kind of wash yourself with one of the little shower units, make yourself completely clean, and at that point, then you can enter the bath, and vice versa. There's a few people that have got caught out with that, and there might be like a slightly grumpy old man that will come up to you and just be like, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. Go and have a shower first. So those kinds of things are quite important to kind of keep in your head. But I mean, like I say, if you're coming from the UK and you do something that's a bit of a faux pas, you will be forgiven. It's fine.
I had a very similar thing when we went up to Iceland with the bath and the etiquette of showering beforehand. And it's absolutely expected that you will, as you said, as God intended, you'll shower completely naked and you'll then go through so you can make sure you're absolutely clean. And have pictures on the wall to show you where you should clean yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just to make sure you thoroughly understand that you should be clean before you enter the baths, which is that, kind of the way it should be, really, isn't it? Really, you should be clean before you get in there.
Exactly, yeah. And I think with Japan as well in mind, then, I mean, there's the idea, the kind of the concept of tattoos, which if you do have tattoos, then kind of in the past, chances are you might need you wouldn't be allowed entry into a public bath, so either onsen or a sento, and that was largely due to the kind of the old connotation of tattoos being associated with the Yakuza or the Japanese mob. However, things have changed quite a fair amount, so there are still the more traditional inns that will say, oh no, so tattoos aren't allowed in the main bath area, but there will be private baths for those people to use instead. However, actually, I've got tattoos myself, and the ryokans, the inns that I stayed in for my latest visit, I was still allowed in, even with ink, essentially. So it's things to kind of bear in mind, and I think obviously if anybody's kind of keen to go and experience the onsen or the baths, and they do have a few tattoos, big piece of advice is obviously have a chat with you, Jason. Let you know, and then we can sort it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we're on etiquette as well, there's one. Did you remember the HSBC advert from years ago?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, about not finishing your food.
Yep.
Yeah. So is that a thing? Is that kind of real out there, or?
So, I would say probably in more of a family style kind of meal that you might be having. If you go to a Japanese banquet that's being hosted by kind of a larger party, then they might keep on filling up your plate as you finish off. However, for most restaurants, then obviously you are paying for your food, and then if you finish it up completely, then they're not just going to bring you another bowl, unfortunately. But it's not as something to be concerned about too much unless you're being hosted by, like, let's say, a family or in a banquet situation or something like that, where they just constantly have loads of food on offer and keep filling up your plate. Most of the time, if you kind of go to a restaurant, then you can choose what you want, you can finish it off completely, and chances are you will finish it off completely because it's delicious. And then you can be on your merry way without having to feel like you're about to explode because they keep on putting more kind of sushi in front of you.
I just love that advert, it's so funny. So kind of making the most of the experience now. What experiences or moments the first timers tell you really stand out when they return?
I would say for the majority that I do speak to, then many sort of sing the praises of a food tour. I think with restaurants in Japan, then it's usually the smaller places that are more specialized, and also kind of the more specialized, the kind of less assuming the establishment is, that chances are you might walk past. So if you go to Tokyo and it's your first time, then you might be looking for kind of the bigger restaurants with maybe a few other Western people in there, just to be like, okay, this is fine, this is going to be okay. I'm not really sure what to expect, but like there's other people clearly from the West in there, so let's go in. And as a result, you might walk past a number of kind of hidden gems. But actually going on a food tour kind of opens that world up to you as a traveller even more. So sort of doing a food tour maybe in Tokyo or Kyoto or maybe a smaller place, then you can kind of be introduced not only to the local cuisine, but also dining etiquette almost in that way. So if you kind of go to a larger area in one of the cities and you go to a restaurant district, and then you see kind of like restaurants down either side of the street, actually if you kind of peer your head in, then they might be actually pretty small, and some of them might only suit kind of maybe 5 or 6 people. So from our perspective, especially if you're coming from the UK, then you just be like, is this reservation only? Like, are we allowed to go in there? Like, what's going on? And you might just be like, you know what, I'll play it safe, I'll just go somewhere else, and you'll miss out. Whereas if you go with a guide and they're able to kind of introduce and be like, no, this is absolutely fine, it's smaller because it's more specialised, they'll take your hand almost and barrel you through the door. You'll sit down, you'll be met with this massive welcome in Japanese, and then you might be treated to a meal that will be the highlight of your trip. And actually sort of kind of giving you that sort of sense of confidence to then be like, no, I can just go into these places. And then just be like, well, I'm sorry, you clearly don't speak Japanese, and then they can help you choose something really good. So actually sort of having that almost on a like micro education on that, and doing a food tour early allows you to kind of get that confidence right from the get-go, and then you can take that with you throughout the rest of your trip and make sure that you're sort of kind of barreling yourself into those places to try something spectacular.
Yeah, I think food would be top of my list, I think, when I get out there, because I do love the Japanese food.
It's my number one reason to go back now.
Yeah. If someone only had time for one wow moment on their first trip, what would you recommend?
Ooh, so for their first trip, I mean, this is really tricky because it's really going to depend on the type of visitor, because there's so many different things that you can see and do in Japan, then it's something that's going to appeal to lots of different people. I mean, it might be going to see one of the absolutely immaculate gardens in Kanazawa, or going on a hike through the old postage route, or meeting that apprentice geisha as well and having a translator with you so you can ask them questions about, you know, their lifestyle and their training, which takes 6 years, by the way. It's a really intense process. And then sort of like finding out that side of things. I mean, for me personally, I'm a bit of a geek. I'm a massive nerd in terms of pop culture with Japan. So I love kind of like video games and anime and manga. So for me, it's actually getting into another small district in Tokyo called Akihabara, which is sometimes referred to as Akiba or like Electric Town. And this whole area is really interesting because it was kind of like directly after the war, it became this kind of huge kind of black market essentially to kind of like trade goods, which then eventually turned into kind of the electronic mecca. So the kind of the economic miracle, the boom that I mentioned earlier, that's where you would go for your kind of your hi-fis or your televisions and your kind of like all the latest gadgets and electronics. And then as a result, it sort of evolved into this kind of, as anime and manga was kind of running in popularity alongside it, into this mecca for that kind of those subcultures. So actually, if you're a big geek like me, and you want to go and find, there's little kind of models of anime characters, or you want to get a very pristine looking Nintendo system from like the 90s that still retains its kind of grey colour, it hasn't yellowed, and you want to get cartridges for it as well that all work on UK TVs, that's where you need to go. And it is a labyrinth and it is a maze, but it's so much fun getting lost there. So for me, that would probably be a highlight, but obviously there's so much that appeals to so many people.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah. And finally, one piece of advice you wish every first-time visitor knew before they went.
So I would say, I think this is probably true with a lot of destinations, especially Asia. But unless you've got any dietary requirements that prohibit you from doing this, try everything and then ask what it is afterwards.
Okay, I like that.
Because then you're going in with just like and a completely open mind, and it's not being sort of toyed. I mean, there was one thing that I tried for the first time like a few visits back, and has now become one of my favourites. And apologies for your squeamish listeners, but cow tongue.
Okay.
And you can get cow tongue in the UK, but it's like a cow tongue sandwich almost, which is not something that I would generally tend to order myself. But actually having very thinly cuts of it in a yakiniku place, in a kind of like a barbecue joint, and then sort of grilling that very delicately with like some touches of lemon, and then trying it. And I was like, oh my god, this particular cut of meat is amazing. And then you just be like, oh no, that's cow tongue, and just be like, oh, I guess I like cow tongue now. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And so I think sort of trying things and then asking what it is later, like octopus balls as well. It doesn't sound completely appetizing, but they're delicious, and you can get those in the kind of like as street food, and they're just so yummy. So things like that, I think probably number one piece of advice: try everything food wise, unless you've got dietary requirements, in which case let Jason know.
Yeah.
And then find out what it is later, I think is a good rule of thumb.
Yeah. I'm completely online with that. When our kids were kind of growing up, they were only allowed to not like one food. Because you know what kids are like, right? They go through phases and they see something they don't like it and they change their mind every 2 minutes. So just to stop us going through this whole whirlwind of having to try and re-cater to different needs of 3 different children all the time, it was just like, you can't like one thing. And as a result, they just eat everything. And they always have. And they did kind of rebel against that a little bit when I got a bit old, and I wanted to dislike a few more foods. But by that point, the point had been proven, and they will today. They'll eat literally everything, and there's very few things that they won't eat. So yeah, I think I just completely agree. Just get stuck in and try whatever you like. And the worst thing is you won't like it, and you know you don't like it, and that's the very worst thing that happened to you, and then you know to order something else next time.
I mean, for kind of the picky eaters, especially if you are traveling with younger children, then obviously it's the perfect place to introduce them to Japanese cuisine, and chances are they might really, really love a lot of the food on offer. But if they're not quite sold on that, and they're still looking for something that's slightly more kind of like similar to what they might have at home, then there's loads of different Western style foods available in Japan just to put them at ease. Things like pizza and burgers are all widely available, especially in the convenience stores. You can get kind of like grilled chicken from the convenience stores, which is actually really good. And actually there was a new restaurant that popped up, and so I was on a work trip, so I was very much sort of like, this is what we're doing, this is how we present Japanese cuisine. So today we're having okonomiyaki, and then we're going to have ramen and then sushi, and everything's very Japanese. And then as soon as my work trip finished, then I heard rumours of this new burger joint that had opened up in select places around the country called Samurai Burger. And I was just did a beeline straight for the nearest Samurai Burger and just had a really good burger with great chips and an IPA on the side, and be like, okay, so they've got that too. They've got something for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it must be a nightmare cutting up those burgers, with a large samurai sword. It must be a right.
Yeah, probably 10 years of training to do that.
Yeah, awesome. So Thanks for kind of joining us today. We do have more episodes coming up in this series, so we're going to be looking deep dives on accommodation, we'll be looking at food, we're going to be looking at the different seasons and the best times to go. There's loads of stuff to come up. So absolutely make sure that you kind of like and follow. For anybody who has been listening now and they're thinking, I've been thinking about Japan for a while, but we absolutely want to go. Charlie has given us a bug for it. We want to get on. Now, what's your next step? What should they do?
So the next step would be very much reaching out to you, I think. And with the way that people look into trips as well, so chances are you'll probably have a quick look online and see what your must-dos are, the kind of different sides of things. So I think making a really detailed note about all of the things that you'd like to see and experience. I mean, Japan can be so tailor-made to what you're looking for. So if you're a big geek like myself, then it can be added into the itinerary. If you're looking for gardens or food or history or hiking, that can all be accommodated too. So making a list of your absolute musts and then telling Jason everything. And then we can kind of run with that. So we can make an itinerary that would suit your needs as well. And also making sure that you're spending enough time in some of the larger cities. So you're not necessarily going there to relax and unwind. You might be doing quite a lot of steps a day, maybe 20,000, 30,000 steps maybe a day. So making sure that the flow of the trip is really important. And that's something that Jason can absolutely help you out with.
Yeah, and we've seen, you have prepared kind of many quotations for us. We've looked through them and they're so well detailed. And they're so well thought out. And when you actually sit down, you walk through the customers, you explain everything to them, they're just received incredibly well because it is those small details. And you can absolutely tell that you have lived out in Japan for quite a long time. It makes an enormous difference. And from the whole scope of you want to get the most out of your trip, okay? Because Japan, very far away, not the cheapest place on earth to go. You need to absolutely make it count when you go there. And there's so many different types of experiences. And you want to be able to, as you've said, take your time and enjoy it. You don't want the stress of having to manage each itinerary step as you're going and wonder where you have to be and when. You just want it laid out. It's nice and simple. Everything you know will run. Or you will have time for everything in the itinerary. You're not going to be over cramming things in. And you're not going to burn yourself out, as you've said, on the first couple of days and then miss a whole bunch of stuff and kind of get grumpy and other stuff that goes with it because you're trying to do too much. So yeah, your itineraries are very, very well put together. And they include so many things you wouldn't even think that they would include. And they just do. Just everything's in there. So absolutely. Just kind of...
Inside Travel's we're celebrating our 25th year, actually, just in a few days. And all of the information that we provide through the bespoke itinerary is 25 years of collective knowledge amongst all of us within the company to really make sure that people's experiences traveling around this incredible destination are as smooth as possible. And if there are any questions, then we do have an office actually based in Asia as well, which is available 24 hours a day. So anything that you might need while you're traveling, we are just a phone call away. So we'll really make sure that it's the trip that you really deserve. You deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, Charlie.
Pleasure.
I do really appreciate it. You're a mind of knowledge, and I know there's so much more to come yet with these different accommodations and food and everything. And the food one, I think I'm going to be struggling with a bit because I'm feeling hungry already because you're talking about the food. I'm thinking, oh yeah, I have to go and get myself something, but I haven't got anything kind of Japanese downstairs to go and eat. So guys, make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow. There's a lot more detail to come yet. And if you know anybody who's planning a trip out to Japan, absolutely share this with them. Take a screenshot, share it with them and get them to get in contact with us so we can make a fantastic dream come true for them. Thanks everybody, and bye for now.